The sound of rolling suitcases echoed through the terminal like a drumbeat of judgment. "Move faster, Mia," my father barked, his voice sharp enough to slice through the crowd. "You're holding us up again." I bit my tongue and stepped aside as my stepsister, Leia, strutted past me, her designer heels clicking on the polished floor like a countdown to humiliation. She tossed her glossy hair back and smirked. "Maybe she's nervous," she said, glancing at me. "It's probably her first time seeing a plane up close." My father chuckled, not even trying to hide his disdain. "She can't even afford economy, Leia. Don't expect her to know how airports work." Laughter followed. Heads turned. Heat burned through my face, but I didn't say a word. I just adjusted the strap of my old backpack and stared at the glass windows where planes gleamed under the morning sun. They were flying first class to New York for a family celebration, one I was technically invited to, but never truly wanted. Leia lifted her boarding pass with a grin. "First class boarding, Daddy. We'll have champagne before takeoff." "Enjoy that," I said quietly. She rolled her eyes. "Don't be bitter. Some of us just make better life choices." That one stung, because 2 years ago, I'd made a choice too, walking away from my father's company after he married a woman only 5 years older than me and handed her daughter everything I'd built. Now they stood there, all smiles and status, while I was the outsider with an old suitcase and a quiet face. "Do us a favor," my father said, lowering his voice. "Try not to embarrass the family name. People talk." I looked him dead in the eye. "People always talk, Dad. It's what they say later that matters." Before he could reply, the loudspeaker announced boarding for their flight. They gathered their bags and headed for the gate. Leia turned, smirking over her shoulder. "See you in coach if you can afford the ticket." They laughed as they walked away. I watched them disappear into the tunnel, my chest tight but my expression steady. Around me, travelers rushed past, families hugging, businessmen scrolling, children crying, then a shadow crossed the floor. Polished black boots. A tall man in a navy uniform stopped in front of me, posture crisp, voice calm but commanding. "Miss Monroe?" My father's laughter still echoed faintly from the gate. "Yes." I said, "Your jet's ready, We'll begin pre-flight whenever you're ready." The words sliced through the noise like thunder. My father turned around mid-step. Leia froze beside him. Their faces drained of color as a dozen passengers stopped to stare. I blinked once slowly, then smiled. Perfect timing. I was getting tired of standing. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the officer gestured toward the private terminal beyond the barrier. A sleek black car waited near the runway. Leia's mouth fell open. "Jet? Huh?" The officer nodded. "Yes, Miss Monroe owns it." I met my father's stunned eyes. "You were right, Dad. I can't afford economy." I paused. "It's too small for me now." Then I turned and walked away, calm, composed, my heart pounding with every step. The glass doors opened and sunlight spilled across the tarmac. The wind whipped my hair as the hum of engines filled the air. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt untouchable. The door of the luxury jet closed behind me with a soft hiss, sealing out the chaos of the airport. The scent of polished leather and espresso replaced the cheap perfume and laughter I'd just left behind. "Welcome aboard, Miss Monroe," said Officer Grant, smiling with quiet respect. I sank into a cream-colored seat by the window as the engines rumbled alive beneath the floor. The city stretched below like a story I'd already finished reading. As the jet began to taxi, my phone buzzed, Dad flashing on the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. "Mia," his voice snapped, sharp as ever. "What kind of joke are you playing?" "No joke," I said coolly. "I just stopped living by your version of success." "I asked you to be practical," he snapped. "Instead, you ran off chasing dreams." "Dreams," I repeated, leaning back. "I built the company you're still running, Dad. The one I helped design before you replaced me with Leia." There was silence. Then his voice softened. "You could have stayed, Mia. You didn't have to walk out." I stared out the window, remembering that night 2 years ago, the shouting, the betrayal, the moment he handed my project portfolio to Leia as if I never existed. "You're right," I said softly. "I didn't have to. I chose to." The line went dead. Grant stepped forward, placing a folder on the table. Your itinerary. Meeting with the investors in Manhattan at 3 p.m. Your security team will escort you from the terminal. Thank you, I said, closing the folder. He hesitated. If I may say so, it's not every day someone takes back everything they lost. I smiled faintly. It's not about taking it back. It's about becoming the person they said you'd never be. The engines roared, and the plane lifted, smooth, powerful, defiant. 2 years ago, I walked out of my father's office with nothing but a laptop, a handful of contacts, and a promise to myself. I would never beg anyone for a chance again. While Leia flaunted her new life online, I worked nights, coding, designing, building a startup no one believed in. When investors laughed, I kept going. When the bank refused my loan, I sold my car. When everything seemed impossible, I remembered that humiliation in my father's boardroom, his exact words, "You'll never make it without me," but I did. And that silly idea he mocked, an AI logistics company called Monrovia Systems, had become a global powerhouse worth hundreds of millions. Every insult, every laugh, every slammed door built the woman sitting on this JETMY assistant's voice came through the intercom. The New York media has been calling. They heard you'll be attending the Global Tech Summit this evening. Do you want to make a statement? I glanced at my phone again. A message from my father, just one word. How? I typed back. By being everything you thought I couldn't. The jet sliced through the clouds, sunlight spilling across the cabin. My reflection looked older, calmer, stronger. For years, I'd let them define me as the quiet one, the forgotten daughter. But now, they'd have to learn my name again on billboards, in headlines, in every corner of the business world. And tonight, when I landed in Manhattan, the same family that mocked me at the terminal would be at the same summit sponsored by my company. They just didn't know it yet. The jet touched down softly. Manhattan glimmered like a challenge. Grant escorted me to a waiting SUV. My assistant, Sophie, turned from the front seat. Everything's ready, You'll open the event as the keynote sponsor. Perfect, I said evenly. And the guest list? She smiled. Richard Monroe and his daughter confirmed attendance this morning. Of course they did. My father never turned down a spotlight. What he didn't know was that Monrovia Systems didn't just sponsor the summit, it owned ITS. The SUV glided through the city. Billboards flashed my company's logo, neon blue against midnight black. 2 years ago, I was invisible. Tonight, I was the headline. At the venue, camera lights flickered like 1,000 heartbeats. I stepped out, wearing a sleek navy dress, elegant, confident. Mine. A reporter shouted, "Miss Monroe, is it true Monrovia Systems bought the Global Tech Network?" I smiled faintly. Let's just say I like owning the places I was once denied entry to. Inside, chandeliers glittered over marble floors. The air buzzed with money, pride, and ego. And then I saw them. My father, his new wife, and Leia laughing with investors. They hadn't seen me yet. "Miss Monroe," the announcer called, "please welcome tonight's keynote speaker, the CEO of Monrovia Systems." Applause filled the hall. My father turned, clapping politely until he froze. The microphone light caught my face. Leia's hand dropped from her glass. "Mia," she whispered. I smiled calmly, stepping onto the stage. "Good evening, everyone. 2 years ago, I was told I didn't belong in this room. Tonight, my company sponsors it." The crowd laughed lightly, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. I built Monrovia Systems from a laptop and a coffee shop corner. No inheritance. No investors. Just grit and the memory of being told I wasn't enough. Leia's face twisted. My father stayed frozen. "People often ask what motivates success," I said. For me, it was simple. Humiliation is a louder teacher than privilege. Applause rose, real, genuine. After the speech, as the room buzzed, my father approached slowly. "Mia," he said softly, "I didn't know you were successful." I interrupted. "No, you didn't. You were too busy celebrating my replacement." Leia stammered. "We didn't mean," "You meant every word," I said. "At the airport,